Yes. That afternoon. He's an exceptionally good student too, which tells you, I think, more about our faculty admissions process than anything else. So we can use these at the same time? Thank you.
What are the kind of opportunities for Bard students to get involved with the prison initiative?
Well, in part, there was a time when we'd gotten substantial enough in size several years ago. There are now about 300 men and women who go to Bard full time, who are incarcerated in various places around the state, and they're all working either as AA or BA degrees. So it's a fairly large program, and that's the New York program that Bard actually does, and we have these sister programs in other states around the country. So there was a time when we got big enough, and the faculty commitment was broad and substantial enough, and so on, that role got very small, even though the program had started as a project on campus. And it's also reflective of sort of the academic ambition of the program. I can speak more to that if needed. But now, we have very strong programs in foreign language and in mathematics. At the very least, I can say that we need people who are accomplished in one of those areas. That is to say, we need Bard undergraduates in the conventional campus here who are particularly strong either in mathematics, you have to be a math major, but that wouldn't hurt, or in Mandarin and German, which are two sort of really thriving foreign languages, and we need language tutors. There's also a budding project for serious writing, what's the word? Tutors, I guess it is. If you love to write and you think you're good at it, and you think you might actually enjoy working, or you have in your past enjoyed working with others on their writing, sort of writing for them, then that's a great thing too. And I think it's still around Phil Party's work here on the main campus, and it's called the Academic Commons.
Learning Commons.
Learning Commons. You can get a formal training on campus on teaching the craft of expository or argumentative writing, and then work with us off campus doing that. That's also very precious. So I would say those two foreign languages, which are perhaps difficult to find matches, mathematics, and then sort of the trained in teaching the craft of writing. That's really it. Yes, please.
Are other degrees offered besides the AA and BA?
You trying to get me in trouble?
No.
No. We have a number of people will finish a degree prior to going home, prior to being released from the system. And we are developing sort of employment-oriented tracks of training for postgraduates prior to release. And those are consolidating right now. It looks around computer science in one direction and public health on the other. But we are not doing degrees, but other forms of... What motivated the question? That's a fascinating question. You mean like graduate degrees kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I left out a section about a speech given by a Bard graduate in between his A and BA. He was a Bard student enrolled through BPI who gave an extraordinary commencement speech. We have commencement addresses given by graduates at the A level prior to going on to his BA. It was a terrific speech that spoke a lot to, I think, some of the issues you guys are reading about and that touched perhaps on parts of this manuscript. And he invoked his words in one of these sections. And he has gone home and, based in part on the work he did, he was an anthropology major and worked a public health anthro project for his senior thesis on infant mortality, particularly medical treatment of infant mortality in the South Bronx, where he grew up. He just started his master's degree in epidemiology at Mailman, which is the Columbia Graduate School of Public Health, having got into that track with Columbia faculty at a Bard campus just before going home. So we'd rather sort of broker those relationships than build more inside, which is, as I tried to suggest in this draft, a mixed blessing. white shirt, gray shirt, and then there's a bunch of hands, and then you in the back. So I'll swing around and maybe forth and to the back. So the white shirt down.
Did you ever face any objections from the prisons themselves in starting these initiatives? If so, what were they?
Key term there would be the prisons. The prisons are highly fragmented in their, who they are, right? The simple answer would be to say no, right? So when Congress, these programs, they sound odd, but they used to be normal, even though maybe they were odd. Every prison in New York had a college and prison program. Because everybody in prison qualifies for Pell Grants and used to apply and get them. Sometimes colleges made money off of those students. That's very common with programs, if you will, for poor people, that people make money brokering the flow of that money. So that there were community college campuses, for example, in New York that floated their main campus on the profits that they made offering college and prison subsidized by Pell Grants, right? Because the overhead was quite low. They were confined, they're in prison, they're already wards of the state. And you run college cheap, and you take the money back to the main campus, and you pay your overhead. They folded in 1994 and 1995 when Congress and Bill Clinton signed the 1994 Omnibus Crime Bill that did many things. Some of you may know about the Violence Against Women Act that was then later challenged to the Supreme Court, amazing piece of law about public space and gender and violence. In that crime bill, people who were in prison were made ineligible to receive Pell Grants, and college and prison around the country collapsed. Two groups, this is the part that answers the question, two groups really went to testify in Congress against that, to protect college and prison, and to protect the Pell funding for people in prison. Two groups. Not a very impressive array of advocates came to speak out. Among them was the Department of Ed. It was their budget. Pell is administered by the Department of Ed. And they said, look, 0.6% of our Pell budget is going to people in prison. Don't take it away. We like spending this money. The other group was the Association of Prison Wardens. State prison wardens from around the country came, said they had surveyed their membership, and 96% of prison wardens around the United States, that's north, south, everywhere, wanted the college to stay. Those are the wardens. You need to interpret that like you do every sort of fact, right? Why would a warden want such a thing? Lots of interesting, we can have a whole interesting conversation about that, right? At the very least, it's something you can take away. It's something you can give. It's something you can take away. People who run prisons like things you can give and like things you can take away. They're like parents, by the way. So wardens generally are yes. Civilian staff, mixed feelings. The sort of paramilitary staff, the officers, very mixed feelings. Among the most advocate antagonists of public funding for college and prison are the unions of officers. Some of the arguments, actually the argument that I begin with here is an attempt to express that position about, I'm killing myself to send my kids to 2 or 4 year colleges and we're leaving with debt. And inside this prison where I work, we're doing college for free. That line of argument. Very, very organizes really passionate feelings for lots of us, in particular the unionized officers inside prisons. But again, similar to sort of questions about self-expression under confinement, which is, I'm sure, a theme here, and I sort of tried to touch on that here. I inserted some of those passages so we could have time to talk. I've had officers come up to me when they thought it was safe to talk to me, frankly, and thank the college for being there. I can say it's the best thing going on in the system. But their union and the people who are in charge of sort of their work environment can be very hostile officially. That's a long answer to a straightforward question. No.